If you, or maybe someone you love, has ever tried to navigate the mental health system, you already know the drill. And honestly, you know the deep, exhausting frustration of it. You try a medication, you wait 6 long weeks to see if it works, and if it doesn't, well, you just try another one. It feels like you're endlessly throwing darts in the dark, hoping something, anything, hits the target. But today, in this explainer, we're unpacking a blueprint from our source material for a truly revolutionary, closed-loop psychiatric system. And this system promises to fundamentally change that incredibly frustrating reality.
So it begs the question, why is psychiatric treatment so often trial and error in the first place? It's something millions of people ask every single day while they're enduring the pain of just waiting for some relief. Look, the demand we place on psychiatry is actually pretty simple at its core, right? We desperately need better treatments. We need far fewer treatment-resistant cases, a massive reduction in this trial and error prescribing, and most importantly, faster relief for patients. But why hasn't this happened yet? Why are we currently stuck playing this endless guessing game?
Okay, let's dive into this. Right now, our current diagnostic model is kind of like a messy clipboard. It simply describes clusters of symptoms. So a patient comes in with low mood, low energy, poor sleep. We slap a label on it and we treat the syndrome. But here's the kicker. We're failing to treat it effectively because we're treating syndromes we can't fully explain yet. To get to the ideal diagnosis, we need to basically take a magnifying glass to the brain's actual mechanics. We absolutely must have a diagnosis grounded in etiology. We need to identify the exact pathophysiology that is driving the illness so we can finally aim our treatments right at the root cause, rather than just, describing the aftermath.
Enter a brilliantly forward-thinking solution, the concept for the Neuroanalytic high-tech clinic. This is a 2026 model envisioned by Dr. Abraham Peled, and guys, it's a total paradigm shift. Instead of your traditional doctor's office where you just sit on a couch and report how you've been feeling over the last month, imagine walking into a fully integrated, incredibly high-tech environment. This clinic concept is built from the ground up to solve the exact problem we just talked about, treating the real mechanical causes rather than just managing a checklist of descriptions.
And the absolutely crucial concept driving this entire shift? It's etiology. Let's define that clearly based on the source. Etiology is the true cause, the underlying pathophysiology driving an illness, rather than just the symptoms it produces. Dr. Peled's entire clinic model is obsessively built on chasing this. If we can move psychiatry away from the clinical guesswork of symptom checklists and move it toward actually targeting the mechanical failures happening in the brain, well, we changed literally everything about how mental health is approached.
To actually make this a reality, the clinic runs on 3 integrated engines: digital sensing, neuroanalysis, and neuromodulation. Now, it is incredibly important to grasp that these are not 3 separate services happening in disconnected wings of some hospital. No, they operate as a continuous, self-improving cycle. So let's move along and see how this builds, breaking down how this continuous loop actually works, starting right at the beginning with the raw data.
Step 1 is digital sensing. This captures movement and behavior, sleep and physiology, and digital phenotyping. Basically, this provides a raw, continuous signal using wearable tech and behavioral data. So instead of relying on what a patient remembers during a super brief, sparse clinic visit, the clinic is capturing an ongoing stream of objective, real-world measurements. And you might be wondering, what exactly is digital phenotyping? It's tracking super subtle behavioral cues, think typing speed or the tone of your voice on a smartphone, to actually detect mood shifts before you even notice them yourself. All this incredibly rich data is captured constantly, before, during, and entirely after treatment.
So all that rich, continuous data, it flows straight into Step 2, neuroanalysis. Think of this as the master diagnostic engine sitting right at the center of the whole operation. It takes all that sense data and mashes it up with clinical, neuroimaging, and electrophysiological measures. The result? A highly specific, brain network-based profile of the patient. It maps out patterns across connectivity, plasticity, and context sensitivity. But here is the absolute genius part. Neuroanalysis isn't a fixed rulebook like the dusty diagnostic manuals we use today. Actually, think of it more like a smart GPS for the brain. It doesn't just use a static map. It dynamically recalculates and refines its whole understanding as more traffic data, or, patient data, rolls in over time.
Once we have that dynamic, highly individualized brain network profile, we move right into Step 3, neuromodulation. This includes targeted interventions like transcranial magnetic stimulation, or TMS for short. But in this clinic, these aren't just applied using some standard one-size-fits-all protocol. Imagine sitting in a chair where the magnetic pulses are precisely calibrated to your specific network dysfunction.
The actual treatment parameters are driven directly by your unique neuroanalytic profile. It completely bypasses the old method of just relying on a symptom-based diagnosis.
And this brilliantly illustrates the true genius of Dr. Paled's vision. The whole is more than the sum of parts. We've looked at sensing, analyzing, and modulating, right? But the magic doesn't happen in isolation. The real power of the neuroanalytic clinic lies in its recursion, the way these three components constantly feed back into one another. It creates a system that is exponentially more powerful than just, stacking three pieces of medical tech in a room together.
Let's look at exactly how this continuous loop works in practice. After a patient gets neuromodulation, the system doesn't just send them home and say, "Good luck, hope for the best." Nope. Much like a smart thermostat that is constantly reading the room's temperature to adjust the heat, digital sensing immediately starts retesting the patient. It feeds fresh, real-time data back into the neuroanalysis engine. The engine then looks at the predicted response and compares it to the actual response. If there's any discrepancy, if things don't line up perfectly, it uses that exact data to optimize the very next round of modulation. With every single cycle, the fit between the patient's brain state and the treatment gets tighter and tighter. And zoomed out to a population level, this recursive optimization drives aggregate discovery. Every single patient encounter is an experiment that makes the underlying diagnostic model smarter for the very next person who walks through the doors.
Now, why is this rapid, continuous evolution so critical? Well, consider this staggering reality. A massive 1/3 of all patients suffering from mental illness will be treatment-resistant under our current traditional models. Let that sink in for a second. 1 in 3. That is a massive number of real people living every day without relief. It makes this technological leap not just some fascinating futuristic science concept, it makes it a desperately necessary and urgent mission.
For that 1/3 of patients, this clinic concept represents something incredibly profound, real, tangible hope. Because this entire system is specifically indicated for those exact treatment-resistant cases. It provides a secure, highly monitored infrastructure to safely and effectively deploy new, sometimes even experimental, technologies, highly specialized protocols, unconventional approaches, and specially approved compassion-based interventions. This distinctly human element of compassion, paired up with cutting-edge machinery, creates a totally new avenue for people who've exhausted literally every standard option available to them.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final, really provocative thought to chew on. What if treating mental illness was no longer a guessing game, but a self-improving equation? Dr. Paled's vision shows us that a future grounded in etiology and powered by continuous closed-loop technology isn't just some sci-fi dream, it's a meticulously mapped-out reality. It's a future where every single treatment makes the whole system smarter, and where we finally stop simply describing the symptoms and start actually targeting the source. Thanks so much for diving into this material with me, and keep exploring the absolutely incredible potential of the human brain.